After Thragg would be exiled by Nolan out of the Viltrumite Empire for treason, he would fly to the planet where Oliver was born in order to reproduce with the Thraxxans and create his own army of Viltrumites that can help him overthrow Nolan and replace the entire Viltrumite Empire as a whole with something of his own. The coalition of planets would send Battlebeast to hunt and eliminate Thragg while he was on this planet, only for Battlebeast to suffer his first and only loss and fail at the mission. Thragg would be put into a coma after the events of their battle, and actually be able to complete his plan of creating his own empire of Viltrumites. Some time would pass, and Thragg would finally locate Invincible, otherwise known as Mark, and attack him and his family alongside his two strongest children. This would result in a devastating failure for Mark, as Thragg easily defeats him by ripping him in half and going about his day. Thankfully, Eve was able to completely regenerate herself and Mark back to full health, while giving Mark a boost in power. This causes Mark to finally resolve himself to defeat Thragg and put an end to him once and for all. And now, we cut forward to the final battle of the war. We see the great Nolan issuing orders to the Viltrumite Empire, warning them of the arrival of Thragg and his new Viltrumite army, stating that they greatly outnumber our forces, but they are not as powerful as us. He goes on to say that he and the others have lured them closer to Earth so that all of the Viltrumites who have assimilated onto the planet can assist them in battle. He knows that this was putting their new families at stake, but he couldn't find any other way to do this. Nolan ends this warning with saying that this will not be an easy fight, and he is not ordering them to help him, but he only hopes that they make the decision to. To which, we pretty much see all of them agree with Nolan, choosing to pledge their loyalty. We cut forward to Mark and Nolan having another father-son chat before they jump into battle, with Nolan telling Mark that he isn't happy that he made him do this, but Mark is just like, you should be used to this by now, man. You always want to do the right thing, but I come in and make you do the right thing, old man. And he's like, alright, but just stop looking so pleased with yourself. Nolan goes on to say that despite this, you pushed this plan without understanding the full consequences of it. There is still much to navigate and we haven't even won yet. Mark says, I know and understand that. I think it's enough of a win already to see all Viltrumites caring for their families on Earth. Nolan says that this isn't something that's exactly new, you know. And Mark's like, I know. It's just reassuring to see it be so successful, to which Nolan agrees, saying that their time on Earth has even changed some of the toughest amongst us. Some of them are even completely different people now. And Mark then says, like Anissa? Causing Nolan to ask what is it between you two, and judging from Mark's silence, he understands that she's hurt him in a pretty bad way. After apologizing and hugging Mark, Mark says that he didn't want him to eliminate her if he were to find out, and Nolan just says that he's extremely angry that Anissa hurt his son, and it's hard for him to process. However, on Viltrum, the strong choose their mates. That's just how it was. We are the same people who routinely killed one another to remove the weak from our race after all. By your standards, every single one of us are monsters, but it makes our change that much more remarkable, and I promise, the Anissa who did what she did to you is gone. Mark cannot say anything but, I don't know what to say to that, and this ends their conversation. Now we move forward to Mark and Eve, with Eve yelling at Mark, questioning why he's even brought her here if this was going to be the case. And we see that this case was actually Eve not taking part in the final battle, as Mark explains that he doesn't want Eve fighting somewhere where she can't even breathe, but if the battlefield does move closer to Earth, then by all means, join in. Mark goes on to explain that due to the nature of space, if you get knocked out, you're going to instantly pass away, and we cannot take that risk. He brings up their daughter, saying that they need to be careful for her, and this causes Eve to calm down and accept Mark's decision, despite disagreeing with it. Stuff like this is why Mark and Eve have one of the better relationships in comics, honestly. Although there are some very big lows, there are some insane highs such as this. You very rarely see a relationship in media where these two are shown arguing as much as they do, but always calming each other down and working to come towards a reasonable conclusion to move forward. I truly enjoy it. Anyway, Alan and Mark are now both shown, with Alan asking Mark if he's ready to go. Upon seeing Eve, he says that he is, but he's gotta ask, why are we all so close to the sun right now? And Alan couldn't wait to tell him his plan of hiding their additional manpower until it's too late for Thragg's forces to do anything about it. Here, we see all of the Viltrumites waiting to go. As we follow General Krieg and the rest of the forces, we see them flying through battleships as if they're paper, taking out most of Thragg's forces in one fell swoop. Or so we thought. As we finally see Thragg himself, he states for his daughter Ursal to gather the elite guard, as we have lulled them into false confidence. No matter how many former Viltrumite allies they call, this battle will have a far different outcome. Thragg exits the battleship and enters the arena, donning 2 Ragnars on leashes. We come back to Alan telling everyone that it's time and they need to get ready, as the Viltrumites have now engaged Thragg and his forces. It's best if we keep piling on the pressure. As Thragg charges toward General Krieg, we see him throw one of his Ragnar toward Krieg with him easily dodging the attack, but that only allowed for somebody else to get their head chomped. Thragg continues to control the Ragnar, using them to attack whoever he deems fit. Meanwhile, the Viltrumite forces charge into one another. Thula uses this opportunity to grab one of Thragg's chains and sever it, releasing the Ragnar from his control, and this causes it to go after Thragg's own forces. At this point, the Ragnar are completely neutral and will tear up anything in sight. As they're all battling, Thragg says at long last, as Nolan and the main cast have arrived onto the battlefield. Mark tries to claim Thragg as his enemy, but Nolan denies this request, stating that Thragg is his, and his alone, and he charges into him. As all of this is going on, we see Robot on Earth who has captured all of the Viltrumite families and their children. I try to not waste any more time on this than necessary, as Mark and Thragg are the primary focus, but this is important to the fight. As Robot tells Bulletproof to make sure no uprising or anything happens as he's about to head up to space, he explains to Xandel that his reasoning for this is due to the fact that there is a threat that is on its way to Earth, and he needs to ensure that it never reaches this planet by any means necessary. With that said, Robot enters a rocket and deploys himself into space. We come back to the final battle against Thragg, and we see multiple battles taking place all at once, and even Nolan himself landing a blow powerful enough to send Thragg backward. As we focus onto Mark and Nolan's respective battles a bit more, we see Mark fighting and defeating multiple Viltrumite warriors as Nolan and Thragg go back and forth, with Thragg slowly taking the edge in the fight. We then check out all of the other battles. We see Anissa and Ursal going at it, as Ursal tells Anissa that there's no point in fighting against Thragg, whereas Anissa simply says she has much to learn. Alan tearing through the Viltrumite elite as if they're butter, and more. And we come back to Thragg and Nolan. We see that Nolan has broke his arm upon blocking one of Thragg's strikes, and Thragg goes on to tell him that you should have executed me when you had the chance. And Nolan says, and save myself that satisfaction for when I do it today, while going for a strike to the head, but Thragg simply moves his head back and slams it into Nolan's fist as he was trying to punch Thragg. This shatters his other hand on impact, while Thragg himself suffers 0 damage. Mark notices that Thragg has his father on the ropes and is about to finish him off. This causes Mark to drop whoever he was fighting and instantly charge into Thragg in order to stop him. But to no avail. Thragg simply grabs Mark, telling him that he will have his turn, so he needs to be patient, and he tosses him into a group of his Viltrumite children, this distracting him once more. Thragg follows back up on Nolan, asking him, "Now, where were we?" But Nolan retaliates with a headbutt, actually damaging Thragg and breaking his nose. This causes Thragg to praise Nolan, stating that maybe in his absence he was the most qualified to lead, but the problem with that is he has no further absences planned. With this, he impales Nolan through the heart, or so he thought, as Nolan was able to avoid this fatal blow by shifting his position the instant Thragg was going to attack, earning his praise once more, as Nolan says that it's going to take more than that too. And we see that Thragg just used his other hand to sever Nolan's body and damage his heart. As Mark witnesses this, his heart shatters. As Mark sees the condition his father is in, he can only call out to his father, and Eve sees this from a screen in the ship, beginning to panic, asking for his life signs. Upon hearing that he'll be dead in moments, Eve prepares herself to go out and tells the alien doctor to ready the nearest airlock. As the doctor attempts to warn Eve of it being pointless trying to save Nolan as he's going to die in moments, Eve does not care to hear it, and she joins the battlefield. Coming back to Mark, he begins to fill with rage as he slowly repeats Thragg's name and begins to free himself of the restraint of multiple Viltrumites, soon tearing them asunder. He roars to Thragg, declaring him to be his, only for Thragg to appear behind him soon after, saying that it's quite nice of Mark to be making this easy for him. As he beats down Mark, he goes on to say that I know shortly before your death, you will recognize my might, see me as the true ruler of our people, and understand why your father had to die. Mark retaliates with an uppercut, calling Thragg insane, but Thragg only says that the blood of Argyll is truly, doing him some good here. But the truth is, this only seems like a challenge because I'm taking my time. I'm savoring this moment. As Thragg gets his hands on Mark, a rocket comes in between them. Mark instantly recognizes who this is and says, "Rex?" Robot responds saying, just because we don't agree with each other at times doesn't mean that we should not work together when our interests are aligned. Mark only says that you're gonna get yourself hurt being here, whereas Thragg looks at Robot with disinterest, saying that you're really sending toys to combat me? As Robot unleashes a Gundam of a unit, he says, "Toys? Come on now, man. Even you can recognize that you're making quite an understatement here." We now cut to Alan fighting Ursal, and as he catches her attack, he sees what has happened to Nolan, only for him to say, "What?" And Ursal stares at him for a bit, as he begins to cry saying, "My friend, please no." This catches her off guard, and Kree takes advantage of that opportunity, asking her if her heart is truly in this fight. As we see Space Racer's ship has been destroyed presumably by one of the Viltrumite warriors, he instantly regenerates it and gets back into the fight. Alan, on the other hand, is trying to reach Nolan, but is held back by the Viltrumites. Thankfully, Eve has arrived and captured Nolan, telling Alan to focus on the fight and she'll be the one to handle taking him to medical, only for one of the loose Ragnar to appear right above her. Anissa, seeing this, directs her attention toward Eve as she's witnessing it attack her. She goes on to save Eve from the Ragnar, stating that he needs you. You can't, but Eve cuts her off saying she appreciates the effort, but Anissa cannot fight a Ragnar alone. Anissa goes on to tell Eve again that she needs to get to safety. Ursal, seeing this, is distracted once more, and we come back to Anissa as she's been slashed by the Ragnar, and this causing Eve to scream for Anissa, but Anissa is able to retaliate, sending the monster flying. Anissa tells Eve to leave her again, as she needs to protect herself and save Nolan by any means. But Eve tells Anissa that she risked her life to save her. She needs to stay and fight no matter their history. And as Anissa hears this, she tells Eve to tell Mark that she's sorry for what she's done and didn't understand the gravity of what she did to Mark back then. However, she does not entirely regret her actions, as he'll understand why when Mark sees him. Eve looks back at her and says that Anissa is going to tell him herself, basically telling Anissa that she needs to live in her own way. Most people misinterpret Anissa's line somehow here, but to clarify, she's certainly regretful of what she's done to Mark, but she loves her son to death. So that's why she says Mark will understand why once he sees their child. We finally come back to Mark and Thragg's battle. We see that Mark states that Thragg is a madman, one who was charged with the responsibility of safeguarding the Viltrumite race, ensuring our existence. But do you not see that all of your actions can bring an end to us here? And as Thragg swings at Mark, he responds by saying that you are the one who interfered with our plans. Mark dodges, stating that you're the one who took the lives of my brother and father, and what you're doing here now is spreading your people thin, conquering worlds. That's what was putting us at risk of extinction, only for Thragg to land a kick, stating that after the purebred Viltrumites all turned on him, he gave up all hope of restoring the race. When it comes to the half-breeds, on the other hand, he can make an endless supply of them. They're all disposable, and thus our reign will never end. Children, to me. We see that Thragg takes one of them and throws them at Mark as if they were a boulder, their body exploding on impact. He goes on to tell Mark that you can really accomplish anything when those lower than you are fodder to be used as you please. I mean, look at them. Weak. Useless. The Viltrumite Empire is already dead. You just won't admit it. As Thragg continues to use his own children as weapons, this makes Mark reach his breaking point. He screams that he refuses to allow Thragg to kill any more of his own children. He will no longer allow it. This causes Mark to tackle Thragg and charge them into the sun, isolating the two warriors. As Ursal sees this, she stops fighting and begins to cry, and we see the war continue throughout many different perspectives. Ursal finally interrupts it all, calling for the new Viltrumite Empire to hear her, and she states that their father has long abandoned them. They will no longer fight, as he never fought for them. No more of them have to die, and as she asks them all to surrender, they all comply. The war wraps up, and everyone begins to either surrender or just return to the battleship, but we see that there is still one final battle taking place. We come back to Mark and Thragg one last time, with Mark asking Thragg what exactly he's trying to accomplish at this point. If you say the Viltrumite Empire is dead and you do not see any hope for our people, then why build an entire army and choose to conquer planets with it? Thragg throws a punch, saying that it's obvious. Revenge. As he strikes Mark once more, he goes on to say that Mark and his father were chosen, gifted with the blood of Argal, the previous ruler, destined to rule the Empire. After I devoted my entire life to safeguarding it, I'm supposed to bow to the scum who obliterated our old planet? Step aside as you assume command? No, I'll see to it that the bloodline of traitors be erased from history. As Thragg recovers from the solar flare, he continues saying that Mark was insane to bring them here. If it's your wish to do my job for me and follow your father in death, then so be it. Thragg flies away from Mark, saying that he'll leave him here to burn if that's what he desires. However, he'd much prefer to slaughter all of the people that Mark loves, rather than him at the moment, so he'll be taking his leave. Of course, Mark will not allow this. He grabs Thragg and pulls him backwards, and slams the two of them toward the star, telling Thragg that he will not leave here alive. As Thragg breaks free from Mark's grapple, Mark goes on to say that even if it costs me my own, I will be taking your life, to which Thragg says, I always welcome a challenge. File this one under, be careful what you wish for. As Thragg goes in for a strike, Mark easily dodges while saying Thragg doesn't seem to be as fast as he usually is, but Thragg grabs Mark by the throat soon after, saying that he was only trying to catch him off guard, and that he will soon know how foolish this fight truly was. As Mark is sent flying toward the core of the star, he stops himself, but barely, rocketing himself back up toward Thragg while remarking, file this one under, nice try. As Mark charges Thragg, he's stopped by Thragg telling him to basically share his final words, as his transmitter has been destroyed, and he will be the only one to hear them. However, Mark tries to punch Thragg while saying that words are not important, and Thragg couldn't agree more, stating that he doesn't care to hear Mark's lectures any longer. As he's tackled by Mark, he goes on to say that the only thing you need to know is the truth that you cannot be allowed to live. In fact, you were destined to die the moment you were. But as he's talking, he realizes what Mark has been doing. Oh hell. I wish you could hear me, because I just figured out why I'm going to win, and you're definitely going to lose. You're fighting for revenge, so you can lead. You're fighting for nothing. I'm fighting for my family, my people, our people, your people. Hell, even your army that's fighting against me. I want all of this to stop. I want all of us to live. My father, I yelled at him for letting you live, but I see now that's when he proved he was a leader. That's when he showed what our people could be. You sorry sack of shit, you never saw our potential. Oh God, do you know what this means? Do you get it? My enemy has sent his outermost protective shell to help. I only wish I knew how to use this thing. It has weapons that could hurt even you. Still, this will protect me for a few moments before it completely melts. Where's your help? Your own children aren't coming to help you, are they? No one cares about you. Every punch I throw has the weight of everyone I love and everyone who loves me behind it. You feel the force of who I'm fighting for with every blow. Your punches have nothing behind them but your own strength, because you're a Viltrumite who clings to the old ways. You value and respect only strength. You feel only the strong deserve to live. You cling to practices that pushed our people to the brink of extinction. You see us as people for conquest, measured by only the size of our empire. No room for peace, no room for compassion, no room for love. You thought you were keeping the empire alive, pulling us back from the brink of extinction, but the truth is, you were holding us back. Under your leadership, the Viltrumites stood for nothing, fought for nothing, just like you. Look at what they became under my father's leadership. Look at how they transformed. You can't see it. You can't allow yourself to see it. But it's there. They're here. They're fighting for Earth, for their families there. It isn't a huge shift, but it's still there. It shows the potential of what the Viltrumite Empire can be. It proves there was a compassion in our people, always there beneath the surface, buried under all of that strength and fury. It's there, waiting to be nurtured so it can grow. We can be a force for good. We can spread peace throughout the galaxy. We can love and be loved. We can be happy. Like I said, I wish you could hear me, but now you're dead and I'll soon follow. My mind is racing, thinking of the potential for what we could achieve. If only I could live to see it. After the battle within the star, we see that Mark has made it out but barely, whereas there are no longer any signs of Thragg. He's in a hospital bed recovering, whereas Eve is by his side, and Eve mentions that Terra's on the way and that they're finally free to go anywhere that they want, with Mark saying that he'll be good as new in a few days, but he asks for his father, to which Eve couldn't say anything. We move to a page displaying Nolan in a hospital bed, covered in technology. Mark comes in asking for his dad, to which Nolan welcomes him in. Mark says, "Are you?" but judging from the look on his father's face, he already knows. He begs for his father to not die, and Nolan cannot do anything but cry, telling his son that it's just not up to him. Mark says that his father should be healing, as they've been through so much in the past, but Nolan says that his heart was damaged this time. He was able to withstand Thragg's attack, but not enough to walk away from it. Due to his damaged heart, his body is no longer strong enough to heal itself, but Mark remains in denial, saying that there has to be a way to save him, to which Nolan says there isn't. He goes on to tell Mark that he must be strong, for their people need him. It is now time for him to lead the Viltrumite Empire, and Mark says that he isn't ready for that, but Nolan says that Mark is more ready than he was when he took over. But Mark says that he doesn't want it. He goes on to tell his father that it's just not what he wants for his life. He has a daughter and a wife, and he has to be present the same way he was for him, but without all of the interruptions. Mark goes on to also mention that he lost 5 years with his family, and he doesn't want to take that risk again. He only came back to fight Thragg in the first place. He just can't do this. Nolan simply says, "Where will you go? Do you think there's any place out there where you'll be safe? And if so, for how long? What will you be doing that won't be simply hiding from your responsibilities?" And before you answer, actually think about what it will mean for you to lead these people and the kind of world you can build for your daughter. They need you, Mark. Not just a good leader, not just someone worthy, they need you. I think about Thragg and what he did, and it reminds me who I am, who I was, but more than that, who I can become once more. Mark says, "No, you never, you're better than that." But Nolan says if that's the case, then it's thanks to you, and I need you to understand this. I was born of our people, their ways. Their ways were savage, brutal, and barbaric. That is present within all of our kind. It's what leads them to make mistakes. They can slip up, slide back into their own ways like Anissa. You are free from that. You are always on a different path. You can show us the way. You can... But Nolan's interrupted by his own coughing, to which Mark says that he's gonna get help, but Nolan says he's fine, and Mark truly needs to listen. He goes on to say that you're going to lead our people to great heights. You will show them your ways, your compassion. You're going to... You're Mark. You changed me, changed them. As Mark turns around, he says that he won't let him do this. You will not put all of that on me. Mom didn't raise me to be the man that I am today alone. You did as well. You are an essential part of me. So when it comes to whatever part of me you say changed you so much, you were essential in creating that part. You raised me with humanity when you did not have to. You could have taught me those Viltrumite ways from day one. The good that has been brought to the Viltrumites all began with you. It's already there and is still growing. If we can change as a people, it's you who showed us the way. You, Dad. Here, we see that the story of the great Nolan has finally come to an end, with Mark inheriting the Viltrumite Empire.